I cannot see a way forward for the Eurozone in its present form. It either has to become a fiscal union, which is very difficult for the reasons we know. I mean, the objections of not only just Germany, where the objections will be stronger, but everyone else as well. Can it be done by issuing European bonds by the central bank? I don't know. I think there will be objections again to the Germans will become effectively lenders of last resort if that happens. What about the European financial mechanism, which will take, as far as I understand it, 27 parliaments to agree to before it can be set up, and with possibly enough money in it? That would be a way forward, but it's so critical at the moment. We don't need a solution 3 years down the track. We need it now, and we need, as everybody says, but this I'm just repeating, we need leadership, and we haven't got any. Well, if people start quarrelling among themselves, if people start thinking that they would be better off out, if people think that one state or the other is getting an easier ride than another one, of course this causes quarrels, but the drive for to maintain European Union and to be in it is still pretty strong. Of course it could happen. I mean, families quarrel and they break up. But that is not necessary. I think the European Union can go on. The Eurozone cannot surely go on in its present state. And I think Germany's commitment to European unity will possibly pull us through a lot of the political problems which you're talking about. Though economic problems, financial problems, I don't know. The whole incident is quite extraordinary. I understand that he was, as Chancellor of the Exchequer, he was able to take that decision entirely by himself, without consulting the rest of the cabinet, without consulting anyone in the Treasury, which he may have done. He was able to do that entirely by himself, just as a foreign secretary in Britain is able technically to take a country to war without consulting anybody. In the First World War, Sir Edward Grey, I think, came to the House of Commons and said, I've declared war on Germany. Everyone cheered, it was all right. But in the same way, the Chancellor of the Exchequer was able to sell off these vast amounts of our gold reserves on his own say-so, and without telling anybody. We didn't know about it for a long time afterwards. That doesn't answer your question. Was have we been weakened? We must have been weakened. But we've got enough in reserve, and our economy is, we are fairly balanced in our approach to it. Our debts are bad, but nobody thinks we're going to default on them so far. So many people have opinions about that. Do I think there's a chance in some form or another? You can't look that far ahead, but it is very interesting who is buying gold among the third world, in India, China, and everything else. I cannot believe that the dollar is going to survive as the only reserve currency. If there's going to be another reserve currency, on what will it be based? I don't know. This is an area which, looking into the future, dare I say, we historians look at the past, not at the future. But it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I hope I'll be alive. Well, China obviously has a great interest in the dollar maintaining its value, and we don't know exactly what China does hold, but we know that it's vast amounts of gold, of dollars, and of other currencies. The things look pretty tricky between Peking and, I must say, Beijing and Washington 2 or 3 months ago. They're looking rather better now. But I've always thought until these two vast countries get together, their heads are banged together, and they work out some new world system, nothing will happen. I think this is a key, but it's again, is it going to happen this year, next year? They've got to get together, because they're not quite like two drunks holding each other up, but they're totally dependent on each other and how they will go forward. Oh yes, like anything. The French, for example, knew what was happening, but they were so determined to hold Germany down and get as much gold as they could out of Germany that they were not helping very much. But no, in a great many in Britain and in America were saying you've got to pull yourselves together. And in Germany itself, there were people who understood the basic monetary theory. The trouble was that there was no one in the bank and almost no one in the government who didn't think inflation was the only way through, because they all blamed it not on the printing of money. They said the printing of money was necessary because of the speculation, because of the inflation. They got it utterly the wrong way around. And there were enough people around in Germany and in the German newspapers commenting, saying the president of the Reichsbank must be, who was a president for life, must be sacked. And no, it was understood what was happening, but those who could do something about it either didn't dare to, because of the fear for the outbreak of unemployment and rioting, which was going on anyway, and those who just didn't understand. It's a very good question. Notice how the Keynesians always seem to be in opposition. They're not the people who've got to take these difficult decisions. They're the people in this country, for example, they're saying that we ought to relax the money supply, make easy money, get the economy moving again, get some stimulus into the thing. And so there's a sort of self-generating Keynesianism among people who think they know better than those who are actually having to do something about it. A leading Keynesian in this country, who may as well remain nameless because I know him, and wrote a book about Keynes a short time ago, he ended an article in the FT not very long ago saying, and if this goes on, after all, we can always print money. This terrifies me. Now, that also happened to a member this last week, to a member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of England, who's one of the doves, saying we've got to do some more QE here. And he said the analogy is very close to a doctor who thinks that a cure is working, that some medicine is working, but if it's not, he steps up the dose, doesn't he? Well, this is what one doesn't do. I can't answer. I'm not quite certain, but as far as I know, it was stocks right across the board. They buy anything. By the time you're getting rid of your money, and that's the one thing you had to do, because everything was going up, the stock market was going up, whether it was bank shares or industrial shares. Industry, but after all, were doing extremely well for a time. Because credit was so cheap, people were putting up factories which often didn't produce anything. And those factories went on not producing anything until Hitler found that he had the spare capacity to start an arms program, but which is another unintended consequence of inflation, really. Well, the Zimbabwe one was a totally cynical one, and the idea was just to get rid of debt, to pay off debts. The German one was exceptional because first it was so large. Though Austria and Hungary, which had simultaneous inflations, but got out of them rather faster. Because these were advanced economies, where you had a social and industrial base which was destroyed, and therefore it was, and perhaps was much more vulnerable to inflation than places like Brazil and so on, which doesn't seem to matter very much. At some stage, you start to panic. The point about hyperinflation is the definition of it. The popular definition is in the month when inflation reaches 50% for the first time, which is the 600% a year equivalent. And by that time, if you are losing money at that stage, you panicked. But long before that, you are trying to get rid of your money. You're wondering what's going on. And you stop trusting it. I mean, money being your only, it's so important in so many ways. It's your sense of security, it is your sense of social position, it is your future, it is everything. And it's one way of measuring what everything is worth. And once you don't know, you can't measure what everything is worth, you're lost. Pathetic, but I mean, whether money is gold or coconuts, it's if you trust it, it's important.